Hey guys, happy Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, August 28th. Thank you. I have no idea what day it is. It's the end of the month, end of August 2019. I'm super excited to have Ryan Kwech here with me. My
Thanks for having
friend
me
Ryan, I know, it's really cool. I can't wait to share with you why I actually asked you to be on the show. But give us a thumbs up. Let us know you can hear us or see us. Ben Gilbert's on. Hey Ben, how's the baby? Shirley Stamper, we love Shirley. So we got a thumbs up and a heart. I'm super excited to have you on. We have not been disconnected, but we have not seen each other or spent time with each other in a while.
Right.
And so I'm super excited to have you on the show.
I'm excited to be here as well.
All right, so I have to tell you, I have to share. So what I do is I watch people's Insta stories, I watch people, and I love to watch for authenticity and vulnerability. So Ryan and I have run in the same circle for a long time. He knows none of this that I'm going to say. So we've run in the same circle for a long time, had a lot of the same friends. He was a member up here at the Citrus Club for a long time, very business oriented. And then all of a sudden he went somewhere else. And I was watching his Instagram and following him, and all I could think about was, this is a guy who has figured, or at least is trying to have, this amazing moment of self-discovery, and he's putting himself out there. You're being very vulnerable and authentic, and you're sharing your feelings and your thoughts on Instagram in a way that I could understand as a senior citizen. And so it just was, to me, it was so wonderful to watch. But I know that that was not necessarily this happy journey going along. So I thought, what a great person to come on the show to talk about his journey and to talk about where he's been and where he's headed. So welcome, Ryan Kwech.
Thank you very much, Ted. I appreciate it.
I'm very happy to have you. All right, so give them a little background on you. Give them a little bit about you, where you're from, maybe how you got here, and then we'll just go from there.
Sure. So I am originally from outside Chicago, and a little suburb called Cary, Barrington area, northwest suburbs, if you know anything about it. And I went to school at a small private school in Indiana called DePaul with a W, not an L.
Heard of it?
Yeah, so I went there, and I actually chose there because no one else in my high school was going there. I don't know, this seems to be a pattern that occurs through my life where I choose things where I don't have any past associated with what I'm doing. And so I went there, I did that, I went to play golf, and I played golf for about 2 weeks and realized that partying and girls was a lot more fun. And so I did that, and then I graduated in 2013. And
he's a baby, guys.
Yeah,
in a good way.
I know. Well, your 20s is like a whole lifetime in and of itself.
20s are big.
20 to 28, which I am now, is like a whole nother, like I said, it's a whole lifetime within your lifetime. And so that was 2000.
What did you want to do? What did you study to become? What was your goal once you graduated college?
It's funny, we were talking about what we were just talking about helping people. And when I was in school, I was getting an economics degree, but I was way more interested in English, and I was way more interested in philosophy. But I was definitely following the advice of society and my parents.
Well, because somebody told you economics would get you a job, Ryan.
Right.
That's sort of the problem with
Exactly.
college. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking, because DePaul was a strong school, so a lot of people were going to Goldman Sachs, a lot of people were going to Deloitte, these strong investment firms, strong consulting firms after school. And so I'm like, well, I guess that's, kind of where I could go and what I should do. So, but the whole time I was really, and I've always been interested in entrepreneurship and having my own direction. I was mowing lawns for my neighbors when I was 10 and 11. I was a caddy throughout junior high and high school and even through college. So I definitely enjoy having my own autonomy in my work schedule. So at the end of school, I did an independent study on entrepreneurship, and I built this kind of business plan for what I called the Life Center. And it was going to be this huge learning center with talking about all different aspects of life, your spiritual life, your physical health life, your mental life, teaching people how to cook, how to exercise, how to think. And it was going to be, this grandiose experiment on how to help people. And then reality hit when I didn't have a job when I graduated school, and I did the millennial thing and moved back home with mom and dad, who had moved here to Orlando after I graduated in 2013. And so I started looking for consulting positions because
how do you become, I love this, how do you become a consultant? I get asked this question.
How do you become
because
a consultant?
you have
people.
You have no experience up to then, right? So a consultant is such a cool word.
It is.
But what happens is people think, all right, I'm going to be a consultant. I graduated college, or I've had this, but you have to go in and you have to know people. You have to look at your centers of influence.
Yeah, for sure. And it was too little, too late at that time. I did a bunch of exploration after I graduated school, like taking different assessments, different personality tests, all different types of things to help me understand more about who I was and how I could make an impact in the market and in the world. But you are 100% right that you don't have any experience as a consultant. So there's always a bit of humor when I see, even on Instagram, like these 23-year-old, bang energy models who are saying that they're coaches or fitness consultants.
Coaches, that's the new word. Yeah, that's a good one.
It's like, I understand and I recognize that you're fit, but give me a break. You don't know anything. And I don't know if you know him, and anyone who may be listening knows him, but one of the elders in my Toastmaster group out of Winter Park, Jordan Kamaker.
Sure.
He sat me down after my second or third speech in Toastmasters, a young whippersnapper, all like happy about
You thought you had it.
I thought I was some hot shit. And he sat me down. He's like, Ryan, have you ever run a business? Has that business been successful? Has it failed? Have you filed for bankruptcy? Have you been married? Have you been divorced? Have you had to go to Planned Parenthood? Have you lost a parent? And he railed off all of these different things that were like, have you experienced anything?
You had not
in life?
experienced that.
And so that was a sobering moment in life.
So what do you do with that? Because I think when we met up here at the club, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
And you were working, I don't even remember. This is the great part about friendship and not caring about what the other person does as far as whether that builds your relationship or doesn't. I always want to support Ryan, but the great thing is you have a connection. So the connection's the most important thing. The rest of it follows. I don't even remember what you were doing when we met up here. Where had you progressed? Had you been working as a true consultant? Were you doing educational stuff? You had progressed to something where the club obviously was, in theory, a hub for where you could do business.
Yes, and that's a good question, and I'm not sure specifically. I think I finally got my head out of the sand, and I started realizing that I needed to go network, and I needed to go meet people, and I couldn't do everything from my computer. And interestingly enough, now that it's years past, I didn't want to admit it at the time, but I was my first job after school was running a miniature golf course as an assistant manager.
Nice. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, yeah, now that I see that, I realize, thank God, because it gave me a source of income.
Sure.
And so on the days that I didn't work, I was up here and networking and using the money that I got from there to pay for this membership. And so I was
a great
trying.
networker. That's the other thing. I mean, you're very personable and open, even then, but it was a different world for you. You were in kind of a business mode.
Very
not
much.
that you're not now, but you know what I mean. You know where I'm heading with this.
No, and I appreciate the kind words there. I just knew that I could charm people, and I knew that
that's a gift, people.
was good with talking with people, and between you, me, and everyone else watching, I hate small talk. I do not like to do small talk. I prefer the deep, real issues.
I'm not good at it. People think I'm good at it. I'm really not. If I feel like there's small talk going on, I'm going to ask the pointed question, and it's either going to go south or north, because I can't do small talk. I don't enjoy just talking about the weather. I can't have that conversation. I don't want to know how much is in your bank account. I really want to get to the nitty gritty.
Right, absolutely.
But you learned that much earlier because you're so much younger. Where does that come from? Did your parents instill that in you, or did you?
Gosh, probably my mother. My mom's, she's a former school teacher, and Southside Catholic, Greek, tough as nails kind of attitude. And so she always got to the point. And I think that, we are our own people as children. We are not our parents, but we are certainly influenced by our upbringing.
Right.
But I always found that the more I bullshitted with people, the less sincere, real relationships kind of came from that. And
you guys hear that? Because that is absolutely true. Look, if you're going into it and all you do at these networking events or build relationships, and you're just having the BS conversations that Ryan's talking about, no wonder you're not getting the relationships that you want, because all you're doing is having these very shallow conversations. And honestly, you can't build the relationships and have real rapport if you don't kind of be vulnerable, which is, again, one of the things I love about your Instagram, especially.
Appreciate it.
And I think that's so important, but I think people are so afraid. So you had a turning point. Like, I remember you business, right? The last time I think I saw you before now, we were at somebody made me go to an AC, air conditioning contractor event way out in Soto. You're working a table for a business. I'm sitting there wondering where the bar is and why I'm here. And you completely changed after that. Or maybe you didn't change, but you went in a different direction. So something must have occurred. What was your epiphany?
Yeah, so I ended up not being able to make any money with my own consulting gig. Go figure. People looking at me going, "What kind of business have you ever consulted with?" So I ended up working with a company called Sandler Training and doing sales training, and that was actually a great fit at the time to give me that vehicle to be in an advisory position, because that was the essence of what I was trying to get at, was to advise people to make smarter choices. So that two things really kind of were an impetus there, and the work environment that I was working in was nice, but I feel like it had served its purpose. I kind of outgrew that. And an even more frank answer was, I was tired of going to networking events and talking to the same people and the same, I know you're a realtor, but there's like literally
I'm actually
8
not, but
realtors
it's
that
exhausting.
Pardon me?
It's exhausting.
It is exhausting, and it's only exhausting because you're doing the same thing over and over again, and as Albert Einstein said, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result is insanity. So I had an opportunity to jump into real estate, which even since I was a kid, I wanted to be in real estate. I would drive by buildings by my dad and see like, oh, well, that could be better and this could be better. I could own that when I'm older, blah, 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 blah. So I jumped into that and totally disappeared from the networking scene in Orlando. And there was a part of me that the egoic part was like, I'm tired of dealing with this, minion stuff. I want to be a big boy.
Right.
But there's also, I think, a deeper soul part that's like, I'm out here like meeting all these people, but I don't even know who I am. I don't even know what I'm about and what I care about. I want to make a lot of money. Yeah, I want to have, relationship. Yeah, I want to impact the world, but what does that actually mean?
Correct.
And so this was a pretty straightforward position where I was, making cold calls and answering phone calls from people, and it was pretty one-dimensional, which at the time was really a relief. And eventually that became monotonous. I am very intellectually active, and I can't do that for too long.
I don't know how that feeds your soul. You need to have your soul fed.
I absolutely do.
Thought process on you. And so I know you do the things that you do because I'm going to talk to a lot of people here. There are times where you have to do things that you don't like to do in order to make sure that you pay the rent.
Right.
I think people need to get past that. It doesn't mean you're less of a person or you're giving up on your dream, but sometimes you have to do things in order to get to the next step. And one of those is making sure you have food in the house and a roof over your head.
Yes.
So you had to do that in order to, at that moment, that was what you had to do. But then you had a break, or something changed. Because that's literally the last time I saw you.
Yeah, was when I was working with Sandler, and
Yeah.
I was doing sales along those lines. And so like I said, I jumped into the real estate, and I was doing that over and over again, and I was making a lot of money for my age, but I also had terrible spending habits. And this goes into what we were talking about before we jumped on, is, the energy you bring to what you're doing is gonna, as you sow, so shall you reap. And so if I'm coming to that position making a bunch of money but still coming from a place of lack,
Yes.
I'm not going to be able to hold on to that
Totally
money.
True.
So that's why you see people running ragged all the time, trying to keep up with the Joneses, because deep down, they're not trying to build wealth, they're trying to avoid poverty.
Correct. Such a different mindset, those two.
Right.
It seems like they're exactly the same, but they're not.
Right. So, and that's what kind of brings us to today is, I had that experience in real estate. I ended up moving to Miami. I was in a penthouse in Miami, downtown Brickell. I mean, it was like,
It was
on
beautiful.
paper, I was like the shit, right? I was the man. But inside, I'm miserable. I'm having to do this same thing over and over again, and working with someone who, and was one person when we started, and as I got to know that person over and over, it turns out that was not the person that I thought it was, and they probably feel the same way about me, but at the end of the day, it was not a win-win situation.
So just real quick, and I don't want to completely dwell on that, but I think a lot of people get into relationships and they don't know, hey, what's up, Britannia? Love the hair, of course.
Yeah,
they love your hair.
Thank you.
I think a lot of people get into relationships. You think you know somebody, and we were talking about this before the show started. You think you know somebody, and then you get into a business relationship with them, some sort of business relationship that goes outside of your norm of having a cocktail, having dinner, having a good time. And then all of a sudden, it's a different human being. And
Yeah.
I love that you took some ownness on that, because I think it's not always the other person, by
No.
the way.
No.
Because we all have our approach to money. Money seems to be the thing that changes a lot of people.
It absolutely does.
And so we all have our approach to that. And so you were in that relationship that you thought was one thing, and at the end of the year, because I saw the pictures, it was amazing. Thank you, Octavian. I saw the pictures. Your place in Brickell was beautiful. I mean, it looked like you were in Seventh Heaven.
Yeah, absolutely. And for a little while, I absolutely was. I mean, one of my roommates, one of his relatives, his godfather, was very well connected into the Live and Fontainebleau and the whole.
Nice.
So we were going to the clubs, and we were living the Miami lifestyle to a T, and that was great. And I'm glad I had that experience. I don't regret that experience at all. But it's not aligned with who I am. It's not. I cannot have a conversation with you and we're standing right here at the club like that.
Right.
It's not fun. And there's so much. Miami, I said this to my friends in Miami, and I don't know whether they got this or not, but I think that the reason Miami is the way it is because it was built by the cocaine cowboys. It doesn't have a soul. It's all a face. And that's not to say that there aren't people in Miami
Correct.
who don't have a
You're
soul.
talking about in
obviously.
general.
But
I
in
get it.
general, there's an energy there that's just like, it's all a facade. And
But that's where you started to, I feel like, the posts that I started to recognize, the ones that I started to see from you, which is what got my, hey Tracy, what got my attention, was from there. You were posting things that were much more soulful.
Yeah.
And whether or not the storm's going on around you, you were still at least trying to focus on that part.
Yeah, absolutely. Because money isn't the end all, right? Even friendships aren't the end all. You have to learn to be okay with who you are, regardless of what's happening.
Correct.
You are the source from which everything flows, and you cannot find anything outside yourself to make you feel better, whether it's money, drugs, friendships. None of that is going to take the place of you feeling happy now, regardless of what's happening. And again, we can go into a big energy talk, but like when you're doing something each day that's activating a certain energy frequency, and then you're also trying to bring in another energy frequency, it becomes very challenging. And that's why you sometimes see people go off the map, because you have to settle down. You really have to settle down and get in touch with you and with what you're about, not around those people. And not to say that those people are bad or good, it's just they're not contributing to your own evolution.
Correct. So I'm fascinated, and people are going to laugh at this, but it's true. I absolutely have no idea what you're doing right now.
I don't know either.
Okay, good, because, and I want people to know that.
Does
so when
anyone
I follow, no, but when I follow, that wasn't what was important to me. But I think it's kind of a, if you don't mind, kind of a conversation to have, because I think a lot of people post wonderful, authentic, vulnerable posts like you do, and you're really trying to challenge people when in reality you're challenging yourself at the same time. I get that. But in order for what your goals are, what's your short-term goal, what's your long-term goal, what are you doing other than making amazing posts on Instagram?
I appreciate that. Well, there's one major project that I am working on, and that is building an online blog, learning center. The ultimate vision for it is the academy that I had mentioned to you earlier on in the talk. Is I just have an innate love for learning about anything and everything. And I have a 70-year-old mind, but I have a 10-year-old heart. And so building that platform, that vehicle, as both a soulful expression of what I really care about, and ultimately as a profitable vehicle down the road that really impacts lives, and they see a lot of value in it. The other thing is I'm focused on capitalizing on my strengths and my natural gifts, and so I've been getting involved in voice acting. I've been getting involved in, I think you saw some of the animated videos that I've made.
Right.
So building those different outlets for my own imagination, my own ability to leverage what, whether you believe in God or not, what I was born with,
right,
what your God-given talents are.
Right.
And so
isn't that hard? So people have a hard time. I think people misunderstand when you're talking about, it's okay, I'm giving you permission to say what you believe your God-given talents are, what you feel like your gifts are. A lot of people don't want to talk about them because they feel like they're being hoity and it's too much. You're being self-serving. And I think that's the opposite way that you need to think. I think that you have these gifts, and if you're not using them, that's a big disservice to the universe, to God, and all of that.
Well, yeah, you just gave me goosebumps by saying that. And that is, I think, the fundamental challenge that I'm dealing with at this moment, and I think that most people deal with, is I know that I have a strong voice. I know that I have a very intelligent mind, and I have a lot of imagination. And I do have I don't know if you've ever heard of Peter Drucker.
Yes, why? But I don't remember.
He died, but he was a former he's like the godfather of management consulting. And he said that people perform from two different positions. One is decision making, and the other is from advisory. And you perform your best from either one of those two places. So some people are best as a number two guy, and some people are best as a number one guy.
Right.
And ideally, you would have the number one guy in the number one spot, and the number two guy in the number two spot. Thereby, synergy. Better place to live.
Right.
So my ego is grappling with the fact that I'm probably better off in that advisory number two position, but I also love that light bulb moment when I see someone just like, wow, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for telling me that, or like that really shifted something.
Right.
So creating outlets for my advisory tendencies, my ability to see things that people don't necessarily see themselves, to connect the dots in chaos.
What would you tell people, before we wrap up, what would you tell people who, we have a lot of people that jump on the show either now or later, and they're like, God, I just wish I had Ryan's ability to take the leap, or I'm not 28, I'm 40 or 35 or 90.
Sure.
They're afraid to do it. You did it. Like you can tell by and you have to follow him on Instagram. You can tell by what you put out there that it's still a journey for you, but you took a leap. So a lot of people are afraid to take that leap. They don't want to make that next step. What kind of encouragement can you give them? Or
You're going to die. You're going to die one day. And, ideally you'll have some moments of reflection before you die. And do you want those moments of reflection to be filled with regret for the things that you didn't do, or for, man, I was an idiot, but I'm so glad that I did that because, I did it. And that's how I feel about voice, and that's how I felt about modeling. Modeling was not a match. I don't want to do modeling, but I'm glad that I did it because now I know I'm not living in regret.
Correct. You did it. You took the chance.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just don't, they're afraid to take, also people surround themselves with people who don't want them to take the chance because they're afraid of taking the chance. And I try to encourage everybody who watches the show, stop listening to those people, separate yourself, figure out if they're really in your corner, because most of the time they're not, or they're just so afraid that they're feeding that fear into you, and you have to kind of get away from that in order to take that leap. Ryan did the modeling. I love that thought process. So he did it, right? Wasn't a comfort zone, but he did it. And then he realized, that's not what I want to do. What is wrong with doing that? That's the other thing that we get caught up on. Well, if I do it and it's an error, then everybody's going to say it was a mistake and you're an idiot for doing it. Who cares? This is the thought process I want to get across to you guys. It doesn't matter. You did it. That's bigger than most people do. It's a huge accomplishment to kind of get out of your 9 dots or your box that we were talking about earlier,
right? And
figure out, this is something I want to try. Why not try it? What do you have to lose? What is the loss there? The loss is nothing compared to the regret later on, which is what Ryan was talking about.
For sure.
All right, so we're going to share all of Ryan's contact information, how you can reach out to him. I mean, don't you want to reach out to him? I could talk to him for hours. Why?
I appreciate that.
Because he's an open person, and I want to encourage people to be more open about what you're going through, what's going on. I'm an open book on here. Everybody kind of knows my story. I try to share every moment I can, the stuff that I'm going through. Or have been through. And I think it's so important for us to do that because then we can embrace each other, collaborate better, be better for ourselves and for our community. So I love to talk about mentorship on the show because I think it's so critical for us to get involved in other people's lives, to share what we have with other people. Adults, children, it doesn't matter, somebody that you can mentor. So I like to ask all the guests, maybe give us a mentor or two that made an impact in your life.
So two major men. One was my longtime coach. His name is Paul, and he was in his 80s when we were coaching.
Wow.
And I am very, very, very thankful for him on so many levels. But namely because there are very few people who can get through to my stubborn self. And just a gentle laser beam on my ass. And the second person is a fellow who is actually still active, and his name is Robert Fritz. He's written 3 books. The Path of Least Resistance is his most famous book. Lives in Vermont now, runs seminars and does things like that. But he's been a tremendously impactful individual in my life. He helped me understand that difference between problem solving and creating. So those two guys.
See, give kudos to the people that impact your lives, guys. Say it out loud because you never know when you're not going to have the opportunity to do it. So thanks for being on the show, Ryan. Thanks for being open.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for being loving and caring. He's such a good guy. Reach out to him. I guarantee you he's going to respond.